Hey guys, let's talk about Pearson's correlation coefficient, or you might see it as R. Pearson's correlation coefficient, or R, is the measure of the strength of the association between two variables. Good deal. So R is always between -1 and +1. If R is really close to -1, there is a strong negative correlation. If R is close to 1, then there is a strong positive correlation. If R is close to 0, then there is no correlation. Okay. So a lot of times when you start to do different models, you'll see R squared instead of R. So R squared is used to identify the quality of the fit of a model to the data. So the closer to 1, the better the model. So you might be thinking, okay, that's great, but like, what the heck does correlation mean? So correlation, if it's a strong correlation, that means that the two variables are related really, really well together. So let's take a look at this guy. So we're looking for, let's look at this guy right here. Let's look at C. If you notice, the slope of that line is positive, right? So that means that there's a positive correlation. Okay. E has a negative slope, right? So that means it has a negative correlation. Can show up. There we go. There's a negative correlation. Good deal. So as you can see right here on C, everything is lined right up together. It looks really, really close, right? So since all of that data is so on that same line, that's going to be a very strong positive correlation. So that means on number 5, that's going to be graph C. Now A, it also has a positive correlation, right? Now the points are not quite as close together as they were before, but they're still pretty close together, right? So that's going to match up with 4. So 0.92 is really close to 1, but not quite, right? So that's going to match up to graph A. Now over here on E, remember we have that negative correlation, and at least this is also negative. You can see that on E, those points are a little bit closer together, right? They're more grouped. So I'm going to have a stronger negative correlation. So I'm going to look at my negative correlations. I've got a negative correlation in 3 and a negative correlation on 6. So the stronger of those is going to be the one that's closer to -1. So that means that 3 is going to be graph E. Okay, over there on F, remember that was another one that has a little bit of a negative correlation, but stuff is still kind of everywhere, right? So the only leftover negative correlation that I have is 6, and he's not very close to -1, so it makes sense that all those points are kind of spread out. So that's going to be graph F. Okay, so now we've got R equals 0.5 and R equals 0. So if R equals 0, that means there is absolutely no correlation. The points are all over the place. They have no relationship to each other. So which graph is that? B or D? D is kind of grouped together going positively, right? I mean, it's not a strong correlation, but he's still going positive. B doesn't really have anything going on, just like a cloud of dots, right? So that means that for my R equals 0, that's going to be graph B. So that means that number 1 is going to be graph D. You can see there's a positive correlation, but it's not very strong. Okay, talk to you guys later.